Jade, it's great to see you. Co-founder of the fashion brand Little Lies, and it's great to have the opportunity to have you on. So great to see you.
Me, yeah, lovely to meet you.
So, yeah, I've kind of said that you're the co-founder of fashion brand Little Lies, and I'm really interested to hear how. So we were just speaking before that I can remember in my school yearbook from when I left school, one of the kind of questions of, most likely to be an astronaut or most likely to win an Olympic medal. And one of them was most likely to be a fashion designer. And sometimes that can be almost the tongue in cheek kind of comment or question for people kind of going through school if they're interested in fashion, in art, and wanting to get into that. So it's just a great opportunity to actually speak to a successful fashion designer. So yeah, it's great to kind of chat to you, and I would just love to know a bit more about you and your brand.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I don't see myself as a fashion designer, and I think like I feel like that's almost it's one of those terms that is it's so specific, and people think of like the big brands of the world, but actually like that fashion design element is such a small part of what I do, and there's so much to it. And I think what I'm more focused on is like the creative direction of the brand. Like there's myself and my husband that own the business. He's managing director and I'm creative director. So he deals with all like the finance, the business, the structure of things. And then I do everything that is about, the direction of the brand. So like what product is it? So yes, there is the design element of it there. What is the product? How does it fit? How does it feel? What's the quality? And then how are we going to shoot that? Where are we going to shoot that? What does it look like? How do we want it to translate to our customers? So, like, the fashion design thing is like, yeah, I don't see myself as that, which is really funny. Yeah, because my journey has not been very linear, and I never would have thought I wouldn't have been in the yearbook as most likely to be a fashion designer, that's for sure.
Maybe that should be one of my questions of what would you have been named in
Yeah,
the yearbook as?
I honestly don't know what mine would have been. It would have been some kind of probably events thing or something, because that's what I was always doing at that point. I always was involved in like music, dance, live events, that kind of thing. So yeah, not fashion, but here we are.
Wow.
Yeah,
Right. Well, let's dive straight in then. So you've talked a bit about that, and then you've said that it's non-linear. This is love hearing these kind of stories of different, and I don't know, but from what you've kind of said, like the career changes, because change can be very, very quite scary when it comes to big life events, and especially in careers. So if we can delve into that, then what is your career history? Let's kind of go back
yeah,
from when you weren't noted as a fashion designer in your yearbook. Where did
yeah.
it all kind of begin?
I think one of the key things for me has been just taking opportunities and diving into the next thing. So as a kid, I was at dance class, loved it. I did different shows like pantomimes every year at the local theatre, piano lessons, like all different things. So when I was able to get my first job, age 16, I got a job at the local concert hall that had just opened. So I was there the very first day that opened as a front of house assistant. So I was the one ripping the tickets on the door. But I just thought this was the most exciting thing ever because I had always been like backstage for shows that I was in and things, and I just felt really at home in that kind of environment. So that for me was, I think, like a really important thing to have started my entire career somewhere that actually felt like I belonged there. So I worked there for a lot of years actually, but in and amongst other things. So I left school. I'd been organising this fashion show. So yeah, I guess fashion was in there, but not really in the same way. Um, I've been organising this charity event because I just thought I fancied doing it. Like I kind of understood. I worked at the venue. I'd been on stage. I'd been backstage. I'd been front of house. I kind of felt like I knew. I didn't. I mean, I thought I did, but I think it's always good to not know what's ahead of you. I decided that I was going to do this charity event for a friend had cancer and we wanted to raise money for the charity that had supported her a lot. So I was just like, yeah, we'll just do it. And yeah, we'll just do it at the concert hall because, I work there and I love it. And I mean, it was a 1,500 seater venue. Like it wasn't like a tiny little place. So I started that and basically like directed it, choreographed it, got all the sponsors, like literally, was training like 100 models. And when I say models, I mean like my dad, my pals. It was silly. But I think if I'd known what it was going to be, I probably wouldn't have started it. But
Yeah.
then it ended up being really successful, and I ran it for 4 years. And yeah, the biggest thing for me was just like, don't look up to what's at the top of the mountain. Just keep taking the next step and just see, like, well, I can do that and do the next thing. So that was a very like pivotal thing, I think, for my career. Was just starting that, because I learned so many things about how to organize stuff, how to manage people. I was 17, so I kind of just went with the flow. So that ran for 4 years, but it wasn't a job. Like, it was just in my kind of spare time. Did that. Was still working at the concert hall. Kind of had part-time jobs here and there, like mostly retail. I never worked in hospitality. I would have been the most hopeless waitress. Like, there's no way. I'm too clumsy for that. And so I always worked in retail if there was something else I was doing. And then eventually, after the last year of running this event, I started to get frustrated that I didn't know exactly what was going on when it came to the technical side. So when the lighting crew would be like, right, well, I need you to pause rehearsals because we have to refocus that light, I would be like, yeah, but I don't know what that means. Like, how long does that take? And I was always worried that I didn't like being ignorant to that. And I was like, well, I want to be in control and feel like I know what I'm doing. I don't want to kind of have the piss taken out of me by somebody being like, well, what takes an hour when actually it takes 5 minutes. Like, that was something that kind of frustrated me. So I decided to go to uni to do technical theatre, because I felt like having that base knowledge of all of the things that go on stage, back of house, everything would just really help me in this kind of events career that I thought I was going to have. So I did that, but a year and a half in, I was basically training as an electrician for stage, and then was like, no, this has gone too far down a road.
This isn't what I
So I
signed up
left.
for.
So I think I was like 22 or something, and I'd done a year and a half of uni and was like, nah, actually, like, don't. So I've got no like university qualifications, nothing like that. Kind of just tried different things here and there. When I came out of uni, I still had my flat in Glasgow and I still had to pay the bills, but I couldn't really get a proper job because it was only for a couple of months. And I had been starting to make t-shirts just because, with all the free time I had, for some reason I was tie-dyeing and like just sewing just as like a hobby. But then people wanted to buy them, so I was like, right, okay, well, I'll maybe sell some of these and that'll just get me some money until the lease runs out and I have to move home again. So I did that and then ended up selling them to a couple of different shops. Again, had no idea what I was doing. Was just like, I have these things, you want them to sell, like, how does that work? Like, you tell me, how does wholesale work? So kind of figured that out, went along with that, did that for a little bit. And then one of the stores that I sold to was looking for staff, and I was like, you know what, like, I really love this shop. I'll go and work there. So I got a full-time job, I think. I think it started as a couple of days a week, but very quickly it was full-time. And worked there. They were then opening another store in another city. So I think I was running the other store while they opened that one. And then soon was then kind of helping to manage like both of the stores. I would go on buying trips with them and different things, and just kind of really immerse myself in that. Like, I would have been, I think, quite happy helping to really build that up to the next thing it was going to be. So then this is when like e-commerce started to become a thing. I was then kind of heading up building their website and building the e-commerce. Again, I'd never had any experience in this. I was just like, yeah, like, let's give that a go. So would be like taking the photographs for the website, helping to build the website, set up the logistics of the couriers, the kind of operation of how an order comes in and then gets fulfilled. Just learned a lot from YouTube, Google, just went for it. I'm sure we had like no budget. I'm sure at one point I used YouTube to get a tutorial to download some like dodgy version of Photoshop and ended up like copying some Russian code into stuff. I had literally was just making it up as I went along. They'd probably be horrified if I knew what I was doing. But I was getting the job done with a very small budget, and so did that, and then kind of that came to its natural end where they were kind of growing and doing their thing, and I was like, you know what, I feel like I'm ready to do something of my own again, and I was going to be leaving to do Rock the Catwalk, the fashion show again. I was like, right, I think that this could be something. Like, it was successful for 4 years. We raised, like, I think it was about 50 grand we raised for charity. And I thought, right, well, if I actually do that now as a business, or something like that, start it up, partner with people and run it as an event, that could be my career. So I left that job to start doing this. But within a few months of like different research and different things, I was like, actually, I feel like you need to be someone or a platform or a business to actually be able to do this. Like, this is going to be really difficult to do, because what I wanted it to be was not only a fundraising event, but something where backstage, front of house, lighting design, stage managers could come and learn. So you'd have those up and coming people in the industry getting to experience what it's like to do that job in real life on this event, but then with kind of the
Mhm.
industry leaders managing it. But that was a big dream for like a 24-year-old or whatever. So then in time, I realized it was actually my now husband. He was like, all these things you've ever done, like, you're always messing about with clothes, or trying different things, and like making stuff and altering stuff. You love music. Like, I'm Led Zeppelin obsessed. I've always been like into the 70s. Kind of had my own style, I guess. It's not fashionable. Like, it's not on trend. I don't know what's on trend. And he has a master's in business, and he was like, do you think maybe there's a business there? And I was like, nah, I don't want my own shop. I'm really not into it. Like, I want to do this. Like, I want to do something good. I want to do something good with my life. I don't want to have a shop. I want to start a charity or something. But a few months later, I was like, there's this brand that's kind of like forming in my mind a little bit. And that was when Little Lies was born. So then we started the business in the spare bedroom of our home as a little tiny online boutique. He still had a job. He was working as an engineer for many years. It was only just about 6 years into the business that he left his job and joined us. And it's because we had a baby and we realized, wait a minute, we can't do all of this and still have your job.
That's
You're going
changed everything.
to. So yeah, now here we are. We have a business. We have transitioned that business from being a boutique that sources stuff from across the world to kind of curate into what the brand image is and sell that. And now we are a brand in its own right. So we design everything here. We're both full time in the business. We have a team. We are married and have a 3-year-old. So yeah, there's like the summary. So there's nothing linear about it. I had no plan, and I think when I started Little Lies, if I thought that it was going to be what it is right now, I would have been like, absolutely not. No, thank you. That is far too
Yeah.
scary. But when you don't know what's ahead,
Yeah.
you just keep going.
I think it's really interesting because from everything that you were saying then, this could legitimately be somebody's dream, what they're aiming for. They want their own clothing brand. They want to be designing everything. They want to see people in their clothing brand. But that was never of organising an event. You then learnt a lot about
Yeah,
yourself. And who would have thought that something that was frustrating you was because you didn't know the ins and outs of the technical side. But then it's just all of the layers to that story that then just stack up. Like, I'm very much about stacking experience and knowledge,
absolutely.
that you don't go from the bottom to the top of a dream in one go. And sometimes it can be quite cliche, isn't it? There's the steps on the ladder and everything. But the great thing about your history and your journey there is that it was unplanned, and that there was opportunities there, but not ones of, high profile comes to you and takes you under their wing and shows everything, but that you've learned a lot about yourself and made that decision to go that way. And even that reluctance there when your husband, that's knowledgeable with his qualifications, of, do you think that there's a business here? There's almost that reluctance there of,
Yeah,
I'm not sure, that's not what I want. So it's really interesting because sometimes I think people feel as though they need to have that end destination, that end goal in mind. And as you said, if you
never had
knew what
that.
Little Eyes was going to become, you
Yeah, I
may,
think if I
and
had
it's
that, I
hard to
would
have
never have done
confidence
it.
in yourself.
I feel like if I had been like, right, I want to have a fashion brand that's worn by Taylor Swift, I would never have become that, because I think when you have such a specific plan, you're kind of like the
Yeah.
blinkers are on and you're ignoring all these different things. Whereas going with the flow, and I mean, don't get me wrong, that's not right for everyone. And yes, obviously you have to work your arse off, and it's not just about like doing going on a whim and doing whatever you fancy, but it's about
Yeah.
when an opportunity comes up, take it, learn about it. What do you love about it? What do you not love about it? What did you think somebody did well there? What did you think somebody didn't do well? What would you do differently? And constantly evolving yourself and learning different skills. Like every single thing you do, every job, every terrible little job I've had has culminated in where I am now. And every little
Hmm.
experience has been vital. Even from like
Mm.
a rubbish little retail job where like the boss bullied me on the shop floor, like that taught me how I wanted my shop floor to run when I ended up having one.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
just, yeah, you have to just go with the flow and step into the next thing and grab each challenge with both hands and be like, right, well, what do I want this to be? And how can I take this to the next level? Because, yeah, if I still think about now, like, okay, well, we are where we are. What are the next, like, what do I want it to be? I don't know. And it may or may not be a fashion brand. Like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I want to just do the next thing as best as I possibly can, throw everything at it,
Mm-hmm.
learn as much as I can, and just keep taking leaps and then see which direction they take me, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, totally, totally kind of agree with all of that. And there's another point as well, that when you said that you've learned something from every single experience, from what you've said at the beginning of like your first kind of job of, being front of house, you learn what environment you thrived in. And that's a gift to be able to realize that, because sometimes you can be doing the same job, but if the environment's wrong, if that doesn't kind of suit you, then you can have a negative perception of that job,
Well,
of
the
what
funny
that's
thing about
about.
that
So
actually is
the
that that
environment.
venue, it had both the concert hall and the theatre. Now the theatre I grew up in backstage, like I, was doing pantomime there every year, the dance shows every year, loved it. So I worked front of house at both the concert hall and in the theatre. But the theatre, the way that it was and the way that it was run, and obviously like it was a more traditional environment. It's a velvet Edwardian theatre as opposed to a brand new concert hall. I didn't do well there. I wasn't good at my job there. I think I just couldn't like didn't focus there. I didn't thrive there, and I used to get so frustrated at myself at being like, but across the road at the other venue, like I do really well, and it was definitely about the environment. So I realized that like that kind of a more prim and proper environment is not for me. I just fail miserably. Whereas somewhere that's a lot more like thinking on your feet, buzzy, or a lot more going on, a more modern environment, I then was able to become the better version of myself there.
Yeah, yeah, which is important, isn't it? And that's what you can't learn through university or a course or a qualification. I think, yeah, that kind of goes off in a whole way. I kind of call myself as a reluctant academic, because I've studied, did my degree, but then took years out before I did my master's, because it was something that was never kind of me. But then finding something I was passionate about, I then went back to it. So reluctant academic, and that I totally agree that it doesn't suit everybody, and it's those bits that you just can't learn
Yeah, and it's okay not to be good at
a
something.
course.
Like, and it's okay not to fit
Yeah,
in somewhere. Like, the world is
yeah,
so
yeah,
big, and there are so many things that you can do that if you don't fit somewhere, or you're not doing something well, or you feel like "Ugh, I'm not very good at that, find something else. Like, go somewhere else, try something
yeah,
else, go and find other people.
yeah,
Like, you will fit in somewhere, and when you find where you thrive, your life will be completely different. Like, you absolutely become something else when you've got the right people around you. And I find that now, like, we've gone through different phases of having different team members in, and when it's the right people that are around you, even with like friends, the right people, when you're there, you know how you feel around those people, and the conversations you have, that is so true throughout all of your life. And you have to just, yeah, keep trying, keep exploring, keep finding new things and people to try so that you can become the best version of you.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more with that. Yeah, absolutely. So, being a creative director of a fashion brand, what do you least like about being a creative director? What's the, can I say, boring? What's the,
Yeah,
or hardest? What? Yeah.
for me, it's any kind of people management. Like, I used to think that I was good at that and that I was a natural leader and, could do that. But when it's your own business and there are decisions to be made, and it kind of starts and stops with you, and if you've got to have a difficult conversation and say to somebody, no, you're not doing that right, it needs to be this way, and it's not because, oh well, that's what management want, or that's what, it's because literally because I want that, because I think that's the
That
best
was
thing for
it.
my business, so I want you to do that. That level of directness I'm really not good at. I struggle with that a lot, and it has made things go in different directions at times. I've definitely had, team members that I've let do what they want for, for longer than they should. Again, every single thing, like, I've learned that about me, that actually now, instead of me being a manager, I'm not. I will focus on other things and like the top level creative direction and have somebody else that does the management, because it's fine to not be good at that. Like, I don't have to be good at everything. Just, I think people think when you're a business owner, like, oh, you're good at all of it. I'm absolutely not. And that's fine. I just need to focus on the things that I am good at. But yeah, anything that involves like specific timing and like doing something very like structured, I that's not my jam. I'm not good at that. But we make it work.
And yet, as you've said, there's other people that need the structure,
And who
need
thrive on it.
to be able to direct. Yeah, yeah. So it's, if that's what you like, you do that, and I'll
Absolutely.
stick to my kind of side.
Yep.
And what's the most exciting part? What is it that just lights you up?
I think my favourite bit now, being a brand now, is seeing samples come in of like some idea that we've had, that we've then like found fabric, we've drawn it up, we've got the factories to make the initial sample. When that arrives, I find that so exciting, because I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to get it out of the packet. I'm like ripping it out like straight away. I'm like, I want to see it. And yeah, I think it's just that thing of like that dream idea or vision becoming real. That's definitely my kind of favorite bit.
Yeah. And how have you, when you've kind of talked about the samples and coming from factories that they've been made, how do you how do you know who to go to for that? Have you had, I don't know, like a business mentor, or has it just been trial and error, your own, I don't know, research on YouTube, or what have you? Like,
Not this
how is,
time. YouTube has failed me.
we draw a line there.
Yeah, we draw a
How,
line
so
there.
how do you kind of get to the knowledge of then,
Yeah,
because that's going to be a huge factor of how a brand can become successful.
yeah.
So how do you learn that?
So that's something that we have kind of picked up and developed in many ways. One of them is trade shows. So going, putting yourself out there, finding different people, seeing what stuff you like, asking questions, like not being afraid. Like, I'm genuinely never afraid to ask a stupid question, because it's not stupid to me. And if someone thinks that it's stupid, then they're maybe not the right person to work with. That is one factor. But then also, it's one of those things where like you bring on different team members who have different connections, or maybe like we brought on a designer who had worked with a couple of factories who she had a really good relationship with, and was like, oh, these would be really good ones, like they actually could execute this product really well. So then those introductions happen, and then you know, maybe you meet a print designer, and then we have like a technical freelancer who has other connections with other factories for different things. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like you ask questions and,
Hmm.
get recommendations and go from there. Because yeah, I've had that same question, like, where does one start? Like googling
Yeah,
factory
yeah.
for, because you never know what you're going to get with that, and that is absolutely not a good way to do it, because it's never going to be like the ones who you would find through that kind of research are not going to be the right ones for what I want to do
Ones
anyway.
that,
Like,
yeah,
it needs to be word of mouth. So yeah, that's the
yeah.
key thing. But again, you're not going to get word of mouth if you're not speaking to people and putting yourself out there and asking for recommendations.
Yeah. And that's, I think it's, and it, we've talked about it before of things not being linear, and its different opportunities and stacking, that there isn't a blueprint here. You can't, instead of us talking about this and having this discussion, you couldn't have just sent me a one pager of this is how you do
Yep.
this,
I'm still
because
trying to
it
figure it
isn't
out.
as structured as that. Yeah. Yeah.
Always,
Yeah.
every day. Just like, okay, like there's a project on at the minute that
Winging
I'm
it.
like, it involves the kind of the sporting industry. And I'm like, cool, not a clue. Never been into sports. Got kicked out of PE in high school. But cool, yeah, I'll design that sports thing. And just,
Yeah.
you just have to chuck yourself at it and see what happens, and go for it and give the best of your ability and ride the wave, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And just try things, isn't it?
Because
I
it's
think that's
fine
it.
to be rubbish at something. It's fine for something to not work, or like that is every single person who is doing that dream job of whoever, like if you think it's your dream job, they don't know how to do that job. They are all just learning and doing the next thing, and every single day they're just doing something they don't know how to do. Because if you're in a situation where you're doing a job and you know everything about it, and you know you are like nailing it, you should be doing the next thing and looking for the next thing, because you're
Thing.
never going to grow and change and develop your career or yourself if you just know everything about it. So, yeah, everyone
Yeah.
at the top is just winging it. I tell myself that
That's it.
anyway.
Oh, that's such a comfort as well for people.
And also
I
scary.
bang on, yeah, there is that as well. But I bang on about process of elimination. I think it's a fantastic things to try things and not like them, because then you've
Definitely.
learned that that isn't the way to go. It's when you don't try anything and you just have an expectation of
Hmm.
that is what I'm going to do, that is what I'm going to excel in. You don't try anything else. And then that doesn't live up to what you hope it to be. Just try
Well, I think
anything
with
and
that, the
everything.
process of elimination, it's not just about like not liking it. It's like, why did you not like it? What was it you
There
didn't
you
like
go.
about it?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that is important, and every single thing that you do will teach you something about yourself, and then that's something you can take
Yeah.
into that next role or that next opportunity or experience. So yeah, it's not just like, do I like it, do I not? It's like, well, what was it that I loved about that? And like
Yeah.
that one for me, like that very beginning, that in the concert hall versus the theatre, it was the exact same job, same company, but just two different locations, and one I thrived in and one I absolutely did not. And I needed to kind of
Yeah.
think about that and be like, well, why? So that has been crucial for me moving forward.
Yeah. And it's as simple but as hard as that, isn't it? It's the why, and then it's drilling down to find out more.
Hmm.
So in your role and with what you've started, is there something within either being a creative director or being a founder of a brand, is there something that would surprise people? So from somebody that isn't a creative director, that isn't a fashion brand founder, is there something that would surprise people about what you do?
About the role, I guess
Yeah, or just the industry.
I think one thing is like how much we actually do see and are aware of. Like every review, every comment on social media, like we all see that. Like I think people think that a brand with 100,000 followers like is anonymous. Like when people comment stuff or whatever, it kind of goes nowhere. But the entire team always see all of that. So when people are trolling or whatever on the internet, is realizing that actually there's a person seeing that. And the same with like customer service. Like some of the when difficult customer service queries come in, we all tackle them together in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think people would think that, I don't know, creative director or a fashion brand or something, like you're not seeing that. But you do, like you see the day in, day out, the little nitty gritty details. The other thing I guess is really not glamorous, like at all. It's really not. Shoot days are one of my love hate relationship things, because I love them. I love seeing the product, but they are exhausting. And I find it really hard to like focus on that one thing for that whole day. I much prefer being able to dive in and out of little bits and pieces, do like a little bit of this task, a little bit of that, having to kind of be nimble between different types of departments and tasks, whereas being like on set all day is draining. It's amazing, but also like it's not glamorous in the slightest. And yeah, I guess like, I still, it's funny like asking about the industry. Like I feel like I don't know the industry. I think it's one of those things where because we're not like on trend, I don't follow trends. I feel like I couldn't tell you who's up and coming or what's on trend right now. We kind of are in our own little bubble and just cracking on and doing what we love and what we want to do and what our customers want. So yeah, I feel like I don't know. The industry feels like separate to me, but I think
Yeah,
everyone feels like that in any industry. Anyone's like, oh, well, I'm just doing my thing. Like they're in the industry, they're doing that thing. I'm just doing what I do. So I think that's it. The main thing is just nobody knows what they're doing. They're all just making it up as they go along. Even your parents.
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
Absolutely brilliant. I love it.
it's very true.
So obviously the podcast of when I grow up I want to be. When you were younger, I don't know if you were asked this question, but if you were asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? What was your answer, or what were you interested in when you were younger? What would have been what you were
I
looking at
think when I
going
was
into?
really little and I was doing my dance classes and stuff, I would have wanted to be a dancer. I would have wanted to be on stage. But as I got a little bit older, sort of like about to become a teenager, like early teens, I realized that I did not have the competitive edge for that. Like I was always really pleased. Like I remember my mum took me to a dance competition, and I was like, "Oh my god, mum, she should win! Like she was really really good." And my mum's like, "That's kind of not the point of being at a dance competition." Like where all the other kids are like, I want to be first, like I'm going to win. So I realized that like I would just get eaten alive at like a dance school, and was just like, well, actually, yeah, like I don't have that kind of like I've got passion and fire in me, but not for that, like for it to be about me being center stage. So then I think, I mean, I loved art, I loved different things, but I didn't really. I think that's the thing, I didn't have a specific career I wanted to have, and I think that's actually been one of the things that has been an absolute saving grace for me, because if I had had a plan and a specific thing I wanted to do, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I would have really gone down a route and kind of shut off all the other things. But I kind of just always felt my way through and did things that I loved when opportunities came up. So yeah, I don't think I had a I don't think I had a I need to ask my mum if I had a thing I wanted to do. I don't think I did.
And I think it is okay to not know what you want to be when you grow up.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's just about learning different things and trying different things. Like it's not like having that one specific job title. I want to be
yeah,
like
yeah,
that isn't really how the world works now, because actually all you're doing is setting yourself up for disappointment or thinking that you're failing at something, when it's just like, right, well, what kind of industry do I want to be in? What things do I love?
yeah,
What lights me on fire?
yeah,
And starting to then explore all the different options within that. Like that for me, going to uni and just understanding the course that I did, the very beginning of it, the first year, you do stage management, technical stage management, lighting, sound. Like you get to experience a bit of all the different things, like the costume design, set design, all of it. And that really, for me, was like, well, there's things that I could do here that I may be good at, but do I want to? It lets me understand all the different things that
yeah,
I liked about them or what I didn't
yeah.
like. So yeah, I think you just kind of have to just wing it, just go with the flow.
That's the underlying theme here, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Can you tell?
How to be successful, just wing it the
Just
whole
wing it.
career.
Wing it, but with passion.
There you go, exactly. Wing it with a bit of intent
Yes.
there. So starting kind of creating this brand, you said that it was 6 years into the brand kind of being born that your husband left and joined the firm. But what were your friends and family? What did they kind of think of when you have that kind of conversation of, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up this business. This is what it's going to be called. This is what we're going to do. And then I guess it's, 6 years in and your husband leaves. What did your friends and family think
I think
when
they
you
weren't
said,
surprised because they've always known that I'd be like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm going to try this thing. They were like, all right, cool. This is the next thing. But then when it was like, I'm doing this full time and I wasn't then getting a job, there was a little bit like, oh, well, like my parents were worried about me being in the house all day by myself because when we started the business, I was renovating a house with my now husband. So we were renovating the house. I would work there all day, would renovate through the night, be knocking down walls and painting and stuff. But he was also traveling a lot with his job, so he'd be in France or Asia or something a lot of the time. So I was spending a lot of time at home on my own, but I'm quite comfortable on my own. And it was a big project, so I had a lot of stuff to keep my mind busy. So they were a bit worried, like, you know, what are you doing? Like, why can you start a website and people are just going to come and buy it? Like, no one's going to know. And I was like, yeah, but there's this thing called marketing and social media, and we'll figure it out. And I think in the beginning they were all a bit confused, like, what are you doing? But I just then we kind of just kept our heads down and just kept going for it and putting ourselves out there and doing different things. And eventually they were like, oh, okay. Like even now though, we're now entering our 10th year in business, and you
Wow.
know we're constantly fighting fires as usual, like you always are. You think in the beginning like, oh, I can't wait until the business is bigger and I don't have to deal with that thing anymore. But actually, even though you don't have to deal with that anymore, you have a bigger thing to deal with.
Yeah,
So my
yeah.
parents are still like, you know, is that all, are you all right? I'm like, no, no, we're not. We're constantly just stressing out and doing, fighting another fire. But it's just, there's also that love for it there. So yeah, I think they all just kind of were like, what are you doing? And I was like, don't know, we'll find out. Let's just see. Just the process.
That's it. And I mean, you've mentioned there about marketing and social media. That's a whole other thing to try and navigate when you are trying to build that brand and get that out there. And you touched on before about comments and things on social media. So there's a whole different aspect there as well, isn't it? It's not just having the vision of a fashion brand and what this could be. It's all of those bits that then go into it. They're like the business aspects of it, isn't it? That's hard to navigate as well. And again, there's no roadmap there of do this and this will happen.
No,
Things
I
can
wish there
totally
was,
surprise.
but there's really not.
Yeah, that's and like just different surprises and things, opportunities that either come up or it goes a different way. So yeah, I just think that in business in general is a tricky
Yeah,
thing to navigate.
definitely.
So when you've said coming into the 10th year, and not even having the idea of the day that name was decided, and I'm assuming like logos decided and things, of knowing what the 10 years would hold, what's been your career highlight, or one couple, what's the things that really stick out that's been a highlight for you?
There's probably been two or three things that spring to mind. One I think is just in this last year actually, kind of really, really realizing exactly what it is that I want this to be and what I want my role to be in that. Because when you're running a business, like you say, there's so many different things that you constantly have to do. You're pulled, in every direction between management, marketing, finance. There's a lot of things to do. And I think I got so burnt out at the end of last year that I kind of lost my way with it a little bit, and I felt like I fell out of love with it a little bit. And at Christmas time I was like, do we even want to do this? Like this is so stressful. And it's not like, we're not living the high life, it would be great. We could probably do better if we just had jobs. But we're doing this because we love it. And at the start of the year, and very beginning, first week of January, I was like, right, what even is the point of this? Why do I want to do this? And I got myself a new notebook, The Power of a New Notebook, and
Yeah,
fresh pen. I was like, right,
to take on the world.
yeah, what is my why? Like, why am I doing this? What do I want Little Lies to be? And realize like all the different things of like, I wanted it to be the community. I wanted it to be something that makes people feel like the true version of themselves, that they feel like they can express themselves. All of these different things. I was like, right, that I think is why I've fallen out of love with this, because over the last year we were building so much of like the brand, the brand, the brand, and elevating it and making it look like, like a real fashion brand. And I think that's where I was like, but that's just not me. And so I had this moment of clarity. I was like, right, I need to strip away all of the kind of the bells and whistles. Like, what do I want it to be? What is the actual core of it? And then stepping back in to work that next week, I was like, right, I feel clearer about what this is I want to do. And then that was the week that Taylor Swift, we went viral because she'd worn one of our dresses. So I feel like that was the universe being like, see, Taylor Swift's a customer. You are on the right path. So I think like that thing of having that moment of being like, no, I feel like I know what I am here to do now and what direction I'm going to take this in, and then going viral. Those are like
Wow.
definitely massive highlights. And then now being able to take all of that, so all the learning from that moment, from Taylor, that whole thing, now being like, right, I'm seeing that now start to come through in the designs that are coming in for this autumn winter. I'm like, yep, that exactly now feels a lot more like what Little Lies is meant to be. So yeah, clarity and kind of determination to do exactly what you want to do. That has been probably one of my highlights for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's great as well, because highlights can be kind of tangible achievements there, can't they? I think, and I just think it's great that it's, as you said, it's that personal clarity around why you're doing this, because I can imagine it can just be, you just get so deeply immersed into it, and as you said,
You
with
get bogged down.
so much kind of going, yeah, and that's it. And it's trying to, however much we've kind of said it's okay to not have a plan and not kind of know where you're going, it's to just keep that true and your values there
Yes.
and
Yeah, it's
honest
fine. Yeah, that's the thing.
with,
Like the plan of like the specifics, what you're going to do, fine. But as long as you know at the core, like what's really important, and that's what I found was I need to know like what are my values, what is at the core of this business, why am I doing what am I doing, and then having that state of mind where I was like, this is what I'm here to do, this is what Little Lies is going to create. Then I can go with the flow. But yeah, just kind of being like, oh, I don't know, do I want to be this or that? Like, it's not about going with the flow in that sense, because you have to be clear on who you are, what your purpose is, and your vision, and then letting that lead, really.
yeah, yeah. And then if they're ingrained in it, you know, as you said, when you went viral because of Taylor Swift wearing your clothing, they're still there. The foundations are still there, regardless of the stage it's put onto. The foundations are still there, and as you said, the core is still true. And then that can kind of carry you whichever direction something can take you in, and how it. I can just imagine how exciting that is. But still, the core and the foundations are still there and true. So, however that goes, it will be staying to the true
Yeah,
brand
it's having
of
that North
Little
Star to
Lies.
be like, this is who we are,
Yeah,
what we're doing, and always like, okay, so things will kind of, go in different directions. I don't even know how a day's going to go, but at the start of the day and the end of the day, that North Star is still there. And I know,
yeah,
like, and it's for
yeah,
the team as well, like, because when we've not had that, so when I kind of lost my way the end of last year and was just like a bit confused and overwhelmed and burnt out, things broke down within the team as well, and they didn't know what they were doing because I didn't have that focus and that purpose, and I didn't know that I didn't have it. I just knew that I was completely melted. I couldn't
yeah,
work and burnt myself way out. But since having like that moment of kind of right clarity, what is the deal? Since then, a lot more things have kind of fallen into place, and it's like, right, they understand what it is that we're doing, therefore they know what they're doing.
yeah, 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 and yeah, that's it. It kind of it's that ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, they kind of say that with positivity and things, isn't it? That can ripple out, and if you're kind of a bit lost, then who's guiding them, and
yeah,
who are they going to kind
exactly.
of bounce off? So, with everything that you've learned throughout your career, from the start to the 10 years of Little Lies, what kind of things have you learnt about yourself, that you kind of bring into your business and planning things going forward?
I think the main thing is being unapologetically yourself. And that is what I do in business. It's what I do. It's what I want to do as a brand. It's what I want people to feel like when they're wearing Little Lies. It's like, yeah, this feels like me, and this is what I'm wearing. Wearing it your way, as opposed to being like prescribed. This is this thing, and you wear it like this, and this, because then it's not really the point. But I find that like I used to be kind of apologetic for, if I was sending an email, I'd be like, right, okay, business hat, and be like, kind regards and all that kind of. But actually, now I'm just like, nah, like, this is a question I have to ask. This is the way it's coming out. Cheers, Jade, and send it. Because I just think, you know, when you're trying to be all different things, like, just no one is you, and that is your power. That's the thing, is that you have
Yeah.
to just be absolutely unapologetically yourself in every aspect of your life. I think that's the main thing for me that I've learned, and that when I do that and when I'm true to that, things are better.
Yeah. Yeah. You are your superpower, really.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, that's
Yeah.
that's how you kind of set aside from everybody else, isn't it? So if somebody was looking at their yearbook and saying, yes, that's the one that I want. I want to be the fashion brand designer, or even if they don't, even if that's just something that's destined for them kind of coming up, what advice would you give to somebody either within fashion, creating a brand, or maybe starting their own business, being a founder of a business? What advice would you give out?
Just always be willing to learn, like listen and learn, take things in, try stuff, and it's okay to figure out your own way to do something. You don't have to do something exactly the way somebody has told you or you think it should be done. But wherever you are, like in any job, be respectful, take a minute, listen to what you're being told, learn, understand everything about it, and then make your own decision of what do you think is the right step forward. I think that's been my main thing, is just like, learning every single step of the way. Um, and you can only do that if you're, listening and open to learning, really. Because for me, that type of learning was way more valuable than university learning. That's not true for everybody, but that kind of class learning didn't work for me. I had to just go and be like in real life, and that's also fine. It didn't mean that because I didn't go to university, I was then not going to have the level of career that my friends who went to university did, because actually it's irrelevant. So I think that's probably my main thing, is just like listen, learn.
Yeah. Fantastic, thank you. It's so interesting to kind of hear the backstory, and as well, and I know like we've kind of talked about it, it's refreshing that there wasn't that kind of set linear plan, because that doesn't work for everybody, and sometimes that can be the scary thing, that if somebody is asking them, but what is it that you're going to do, and what's the aim of that, and how is that going to work, saying I don't quite know yet, but I just want to try.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
fine,
also fine to
and that's
change
great.
things. Like you don't have to, like one of my team is now our creative exec, and she is incredible at what she does, creating content, you know set, builds emails, like marketing. But she's a nurse. She was trained as a nurse. She worked in the neonatal, like intensive care unit for a lot of years, and then this job came up, and she was like, I just need to I need to apply for that. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. She thought she was supposed to be doing nursing. She loved it, but came to a point where she was like, actually, this is not good for my mental health. It's a challenge. Again, a lot of people, when that interview, like when that application came in, they'd be like, oh well, why is a nurse applying for this job? But I was like, that's really interesting. I want to know more about this. Like, why that change? And interviewed her, and she was absolutely the right person for the job. So I think again, it's just not about things being linear and following the crowd and step by step. Actually, it's a leap to the left and a leap to the right and God knows what else, instead of just these kind of little incremental things, like from one thing to the next. Yeah.
She sounds great as well. I
She's a
love
legend. Yeah. Yeah.
her stories anyway.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jade. It's been
Thank you for
a
having me.
pleasure to talk to you. It's great to hear the history of it, and yeah, it'll be exciting to see what's next, and
Yeah,
where
watch
it
this
goes from.
space. Go sports
There
for
you go.
this for this thing I've got happening just now. Yeah.
I think